Is this the end of the world economy? Is tariffs going to destroy everything? Look, I'm an economist. I'm looking at all these things, and I want to tell you something. If you're in America, look, first of all, Trump has won on a landslide, and he's trying to really change everything. It is a bold move. I call it really a new American Revolution. The first American Revolution brought us, and if you're an American, you think your country is the worst thing has ever happened and is a disgrace. Think of it. The US is the first or most modern democracy. It has exported the idea that the people can organize around an ideal. And by the way, it was a Judeo-Christian ideals. And the Constitution, the US Constitution is really an amazing piece of ideals. First time that man has given or put into law that every other man has the right given by their creator. So we are looking at an abyss. But that's not really what's happening. First of all, the economy. Why is everybody telling you everything is going to explode, everything going to destroy, everything is going to end? Because they have interest on it. Look, you have a portfolio. Okay, good. Maybe your portfolio took a hit. But honestly, how much hit? Look, if you look at the US stock market, 88% of the stock market belongs to 10% of the population. Yes, to be honest, the growth that we had globally with the whole idea of free trade and everything, open markets, starting in the 80s, but mostly in the 90s, has been amazing. We are buying cheap things that we don't need a lot. But to be honest with you, and I'm going to put this later here, if we look at how much people are making, general, like the bottom 50%, the top 50%, the top 1%, the top 1%, this is not sustainable. And a course correction is needed. We don't want something like around the time of the American Revolution in Europe, which was the French Revolution, where the elites were just decapitated. Because social unrest, and clearly people are looking for something. People do not believe in anything anymore. Why are they blowing Teslas when Elon Musk is actually helping them? Because we're all living in this crazy moment. So a course correction is needed. 12% of the stock market is owned by the bottom 40%. Okay, so 350 million people in the US, the top 50% own 100%. The top 50%, the bottom 50%, and this is actually data, okay? Data from the US Treasury. They have debt. So for those Americans, for the majority of Americans, right? So if you have literally 90% of America, the tariffs will be attested. But if we make sure we have more good paying jobs in America, and you buy less because, to be honest, we're buying too much. We're going to balance this. But one thing that is unsustainable, and we have a lot of data to back that up, is trade deficits to the where the eye can see, inflation, Brazil, Argentina, Greece, a lot of inflation. Brazil, I've lived this. Like the fact that you go to the supermarket and you have 1,000% in a month. So by the time you enter the market, you grab the stuff. I was very little, but I remember this. You grab the thing, you put in your cart, because by the time you go around the aisle, someone is already changing the price, right? Before computers, so you had the stickers. That was a reality in the 1990s in Brazil. So that is very bad for population and for social rest and everything else. It's one thing. Debt. Greece, a very, very big example. Brazil, Argentina. So the US is a huge economy, but it's borrowing without tomorrow, without any control. It's also not sustainable. We have enough data. Countries do fail. Very, very hard for the US to fail, but what everybody's saying, and is really economists don't have a good timing, a good way of explaining this, and we say just, deficit and this, but it's like your house. If you're just own, they're gonna take your house, they're gonna take your car and everything. So that's not sustainable. But tariffs, the way President Trump is doing this, also as a negotiation tool, has really never been tested this way. But even if there is a very tough shift and a very troubling waters right now, we understood during COVID that it's not sustainable to have supply chains that are not controlled. And could be something like a pandemic, could be a war with China, hopefully not, but anything that happens, climate, whatever, you basically would have chaos because you're not going to have cars, you would not have medicines, food supplies, everything. So this amazing thing that has been built, which is the intertwined supply chains, and you build a piece of the equipment all over the world, and then you assemble somewhere. It has worked for some time, but now, not anymore. And why not? Because you have social unrest. You have people that clearly can see on their pocketbooks that there's no money. And we don't want to get into a French Revolution type of situation. And people understand deep inside that things are not working for them. Yes, it has worked for Wall Street, but it has not worked for Main Street. And the two can coexist. That's the important thing. Because for Wall Street, long term, it's very important. But if you don't have a US and you have the border open, overflowing of people, and you destroy this beautiful experiment, which is the American democracy, who wins? So let's be optimistic. Let's let President Trump do his job. He got elected and he ran on this. If there's a problem, he will lose the midterms. But if it's not, it's an amazing opportunity. It's an opportunity that the world, I would like Brazil to have an Elon Musk doing and going through all the waste, all the fraud, so that we can have more money going to the right places. Please, you bought a Tesla in the past. You love Elon Musk because he was saving the planet, because he was not consuming fossil fuel. His cars drive themselves. He gave reverse on a rocket. There's a say that, no, you're like a rocket. Your life needs to be like a rocket. There's no rewind, just goes. He was able to change a proverb. He's able to pinch. So beautiful. And he can do much cheaper. So we have Tesla. We have SpaceX, XAI, his second AI company, because OpenAI was one of his companies and he donated. And then you have so many things. Yes. Okay. Does he have unfettered power? Okay. Let's pay attention. People have different ideas and different agendas. But for you to judge this man, how you judge yourself. So when Congress or some Democrats say that he's like stealing money, well, we saw all that money being wasted, maybe fraudulent, stolen, So we will judge people with what we have in our hearts. As a Christian, I like to believe that Democrats are just misguided. And I want to give the benefit of the doubt to Elon Musk. It's amazing. He's showing you all this waste, fraud, and abuse. His company is being attacked, literally attacked. A car that very recent, once was thought of as a miracle, as a savior of the planet, is being bombed. People like in Brazil, look at this. Here in Brazil, we're asking for freedom of speech, for due process, just like it's happening in the US. Let's all come together. When you have people with 120, 180 years, 200, 300 years on Social Security, how can you say he's attacking Social Security? The solvency of Social Security depends that only the people that are entitled to that should get. So with USAID, money that has been used even to influence Brazilian elections, that's part of the protest. This is happening today in Sao Paulo. It was early today. So please, America, wake up. Hamas, bad, terrorist. Elon Musk, good. Okay, for now, he's doing good. Is he the Antichrist, as some of you are saying? Well, not for now. But if he takes over the world and he starts, saying he's the new Messiah, okay, then we need to be careful. But right now, Elon Musk is taking a hit. This guy, it's a genius. So at least, let's not call him incompetent, like the CNN and a few guys are doing. Okay, you can say he's evil, okay, but incompetent, that's like too much. Your message is not going to get across. The fact of the matter is, America is going through a beautiful, an amazing new revolution. America brought to the world a new idea for government. A government created by the people, before the people. They rolled into that Declaration of Independence that, I really like to go to the Oval Office now to see the actual, I think I've seen at in Washington, but maybe it was just a copy. The idea that in 1776, a lot of men, yes, white men, because at that time, that was slavery. So white men were fighting for the goodness of everybody. And it's written there that everyone was given the rights by the Creator. That's a huge thing. Not the king, not the president, not a judge, but by the Creator. And we needed to protect minorities. And we needed to protect individual rights, protection of freedom of speech, and the right of self-defense. That is amazing. You live in one of the beacons of hope that has ever existed in the world. Don't confuse all the dirt around the idea with America. Is President Trump really going to be able to bring all to the light? I don't know. Let's see. He got elected for that. And is he evil? Not as far as I can know. But if tomorrow he wants to become really a dictator, okay, now it's time. But he's not becoming a dictator. Dictators are those judges that clearly don't have the power, or they're not vested with that power, even by the US Constitution, to block an agenda that is from the executive. We need separation of powers. We need checks and balance. We need freedom of speech. We need people to be educated. And you know what you have achieved, whoever you are, because we don't even know who's behind all this BS. What happened the past 4 years? Why? Who is behind this? Because honestly, nobody really wins. Not even the people that sells the guns, the so-called the defense and whatever interest, big pharma. No, there's something evil behind this. So right now, America has a chance. The world has a chance for us to once again fight for this right. You who cry about wokeness, about the rights of the innocent, the rights of the immigrants, I agree with you. But, the pendulum will shift a little bit, and some good people will suffer. We're not perfect. If we're perfect, we would be God. But let's take this, all that is being done, with a grain of salt, and let's support. Be vigilant. In the Bible, it says for you to be like the sheep, but at the same time, astute as the snake. Something like that. President Trump, against all odds, have come back to office. 2 assassination attempts. And clearly, this is God's hand. And if he's evil, that's God's hand. We need to go through this. But let's judge the man for his actions, not for what you think he's going to do. Look, he brought to the White House, to his administration, his cabinet, the most diverse, the most exciting group of people that not even Lincoln, when you talk about the gang of rivals. And when I look at that interview with very big industry titans, like Elon Musk, the guy from AI companies, and one of the founders of Airbnb, they're there. They're not fighting on the front lines as a lot of you are, in Iraq, Iran, all this, on the past wars in Europe. A lot of people have given the ultimate sacrifice, their life. And when I see, even as a foreigner, that you can give more to someone who lied and crossed the border, is a criminal, but they get a ATM, they get a hotel in New York, and you have veterans. And if you walk through New York, you're going to see some veterans that, because of the torture and all the things that you go through in a war, your spirit is like not the same. And they don't get the same treatment. I've never understood that. I never understood why America don't put their veterans on the best, like in a pedestal, because they have fought wars. They were not even just wars. Wars like when we went into Iraq for nothing, for the interests of people in the government or in the defense industry. So I know, we know all that. But let's be honest. The real religion, and for you who also Christian, I know there's a lot of good Christians in the US. The real religion, Jesus said, that is caring for the weak, the widow, the foreigner, the godless. So I understand we need to be compassionate, but we also need to be vigilant. So stop calling Elon Musk a Nazi, unless he start doing what Adolf Hitler did. But to be honest with you, if you pretend to be the good side or the loving side, stop bombing Teslas or attacking people or keying their, so let's judge President Trump for what he's doing. He's making America the center, not the stock market, but Americans, day-to-day Americans, Main Street. Now is the time to some correction, the balancing to Main Street, because Main Street is really the core of America, of the economy. The economy is not this virtual thing that just flows around. There are people, you and I. We buy, we sell, we produce. Technology is great. Financial services are important. But in the end of the day, we need food, water, and shelter. We're very simple beings. We are animals, very simple animals. But we have a good divine spark into ours. So different from animals. But we also need that. We need a sense of belonging, and we sometimes are not very open to innovation or open to change, but change is needed. And a new American Revolution is going to be good for the world. We need to bring peace. We need not to want wars anytime, and we need to sit down with our enemies. We need to go across the aisle and bring the few sane Democrats into a conversation. Look, tariffs has never been tested this way. So if there's a political price to pay, Trump is willing to pay. And he has a good cabinet. And you all in the US should be very proud because it is really an example. And I do believe that America, Israel, and Brazil, we have a lot to teach the world. We need, and again, to those who never heard of me talking about America, the whole ideal behind America, everything that has been dreamed for American to be, and Israel as the promise that God himself gave to Abraham, a land that is so perfect. And Brazil, because we have more peaceful integration here. So we need to learn with you, and you need to learn with us. So this integration will be amazing because we do live in the most prosperous, the most peaceful time in history. We need to believe that. We need to see the reality. Those are the facts. Social media should not be a source of anxiety. It should be a source of information. And you should educate yourself before you do any stupid things. And the more we have freedom of speech, the more we educate each other, the best this union is going to be. And God bless you, America. God bless you, President Trump. Help us discuss this with the world. Let's bring the brightest minds once again into that ideal that is not only America, that's for the entire world. Just like the promise that God gave Abraham about Israel, I believe those ideal, this perfect union, the perfect government system, because we're not perfect, we're not God. The perfect thing that we humans can have here in this planet is for everybody, because this is really going to be an amazing decade. We're going to take care of each other without disrupting individual rights. Believe me when I say it is a good time to be alive, and ask yourself why you hate this man or that man. Because if you really believe in those ideals of the left, you shouldn't be doing that. But you're looking for something that is beyond just a political party. What is missing is the idea of God and something that is much bigger than us. And there's no right or wrong way of finding this, but you all should. So let's bring peace to the world. Let's put on the same table Xi, Putin, any enemy, any foe, any friend, and we should have a more perfect union. Together, we're going to be a more prospered world. But if individuals and if countries are not sustainable, are not working well, that's never going to work. The more people we have, the more innovation we have. That was the 2018 Nobel Economic Prize. So economists have always been wrong. They thought the world will be destroyed, Malthus, for example, by if we have 2 billion, 3 billion people, we're at 8. And the more and more we're innovating, we have more food, not less, but very bad distribution. So the people on the left, and I would call myself one of those, but not anymore because you guys went too to the left. But I understand the argument. And the idea is, how can we make sure no one is left behind, but at the same time, we have meritocracy? So let's do this. Joy, change is good, and join this conversation.